And feeling about this.
Week 2 of Andor Season 2. Episodes 4, 5, and 6 are out now. And I can genuinely say, I'm glad I stuck with it. Because now it's starting to pick back up. It's starting to feel like Season 1 again. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 were awful. They were too long. They wasted so much time setting up what could have been set up in one episode over the course of 3. And nothing real import actually happened. But 4, 5, and 6 starting to feel more like Season 1. Starting to feel better. More things happen in an episode. Things actually pay off over the course of one episode instead of having to wait for all 3. So I'm happy. And also it's the quality is definitely there. That's something I didn't say in my last review for episodes 1, 2, and 3 was that the show looks good. Hold on, let me fix my camera here. There we go. The show looks good. So maybe that's where all the money, the $60 million an episode. The show looks really well. It looks like Star Wars. It doesn't look like the sets were shot in someone's living room with a bunch of green screen or on the... Because they actually built a lot of the sets for the show. And so maybe that's where most of the money went. But yeah, no, it looks really good. I do like how the show looks. Now, these last 3 episodes that came out, 4, 5, and 6, they are much more impactful. More things happen. The actors actually get to spread their wings and act, which is really nice. Andor actually does shit instead of being handcuffed to a floor for 2 episodes. But in any case, let's go ahead and hop right in to episodes 4, 5, and 6. Now, episode 4 starts off with Bix having her PTSD from her doctor treatments. Funny enough, she doesn't seem to be as traumatized by the controversial scene from the last episode that came out, and everyone was just losing their mind over. That one doesn't really seem to be bothering her all that much. Moreover, it's the doctor thing that's still bugging her, the thing that they had already set up in the beginning. It goes from Bix to Gorman, so we finally get to see the Gorman plot in action, and it follows Cyril, who's on his way to work. And it's shown as something very mundane, like he's just there. And while he's there, he's having discussions with his mother about his time in Gorman, and he shows like he's kind of sympathetic to the Gormans. Now, this is actually all just a ruse, because he's actually working for the ISB, remember how they were trying to foment rebellion on Gorman so they can justify taking it over? So he's all part of that. I was able to predict that almost immediately. I saw that. The second I saw people were wiretapping him, I'm like, oh, it's all a ruse. It's fine. But that being said, I am so happy that Cyril is actually doing stuff. He's actually like being a character instead of just being the prissy little mama's boy that we thought he was turned into. Because he was a fun character in Season 1. He was the Imperial citizen who just wanted to do right by the Empire. He's not evil. He's not overtly malicious. He just wants to do good. He wants to prove himself. And so he's the good character. And I was worried that he was just going to be sidelined in this season and just not given his proper due. But no, he's actually a character in this, which is great. So from there we go to Mon Mothma in the Senate. They are trying to crack down on Gorman in the Senate, and Mon Mothma, who doesn't have a lot to do in these 3 episodes, I will say, but in this bit that she's in, she is trying to court votes in the Senate, and a lot of the senators you're starting to see how the Empire is impacting the Senate, and they're going, I don't really want to go against the Emperor, and some of them are withdrawing their support, despite the fact that they voted with Mon Mothma in the past. But you can start to see the impact that the Empire has on the senators. Funny enough, I wish he was shown more often, because Orn Frey Tall, the Twi'lek senator from Ryloth, he's in a lot of the books. He's a piece of shit. He's lazy. He's corrupt. He's greedy, and I feel he's one of the senators, because a lot of the senators are shown to just be just the righteous people. They're the ones that represent all the needs of their people, but they don't really show senators. They show senators like Organa and Mon Mothma, but they never really show senators like Orn Frey Tall, who are just massive pieces of shit, and they were totally on board with the Empire because it made them rich. But I wish we could see more of them. But if you could put them in any show, it would have been nice to have them in this show. But no one really knows who Orn Freytaler is. He's only really ever mentioned in the books and in the Clone Wars. So most people don't actually know who he is. I wish he was in this, but he's not. That being said, on that note, there are a lot more aliens in these episodes, so it doesn't look like it's all just humans. It shows her talking to aliens, and there are aliens in the background, and they actually put in some effort to make the aliens look believable. It's nice. I like it. All right, next we have Luthen, who is meeting with Andor, and he is essentially trying to get Andor to go to Gorman, because the Gormans are right now, they're fomenting kind of a small resistance movement. They don't like what the Empire is doing. The Empire is building a building in the center of town, and no one really knows what it is. Most of the Gormans think it's an armory, even though the Empire just says it's a city center, because they are trying to set their stage for retaliation whenever the bottle finally pops and people actually attack. So Luthen is sending Andor to the planet to basically see what the resistance is made of, because he's only ever contacted them through like comms. He's never seen them, and they've never seen him, because he's still not entirely sure whether they've got what it takes to actually be a resistance. So yeah, and while he's there, we find out that there is a monument in the middle of the town square where Tarkin, which I'm so glad Tarkin got mentioned, by the way, because that's a presence that we need to feel more, especially on these planets. Is Tarkin is supposed to be a big deal. He's never mentioned in any of these things, so it's nice to see. Yes, Tarkin has an influence. Tarkin landed a ship in the middle of the town and just massacred a bunch of people. 500 Gormans is what happened, because they needed clearance to land, and the Gormans didn't give it, and he just landed the ship on top of them. That's what I heard happen. I might have to go back and rewatch that, because it might have been more to it than that. But 500 Gormans were killed, and there's this monument in the middle of town trying to memorialize it. And Andor is talking to his hotel concierge, and the guy's like, "No, I was there for it. I don't need a monument to remember that day." Which I just thought it was interesting, just having Tarkin mentioned. And then finally, we go to Dakar, which is where the Saw Gerrera arm of the rebellion is there, and I'm so glad to see Forrest Whitaker back as Saw Gerrera. One of my favorite castings ever. And obviously the best part of Rogue One was Saw Gerrera. The best part of Andor Season 1 was Saw Gerrera. And he does not disappoint in these 3 episodes. So essentially what they're doing is they are planning a raid for a drug or fuel. It's kind of up in the air. It's a fuel source, but people use it like a drug. It's called rhydonium, and while it's being harvested, if you inhale enough of its fumes, it essentially acts like a drug. So they are teaching. They have a technician that was sent by Luthen to train their engineers to actually run the machine that extracts it. And so the first episode is the engineer shows up, and he's trying to teach the engineer shows up, and he's trying to teach Saw Gerrera's engineer on how to run the machine. And there are multiple different combinations and configurations that he has to learn by memory. And the episode ends with Bix and Andor, or Bix by herself after Andor's left. And she's using some kind of drug. It's not explained what the drug is until the next episode, so it's a good thing these were all released at the same time. But essentially, it's a sleeping drug that helps her to sleep. And later, Luthen confronts her about it, but it turns out that once you stop using the drug, your dreams come back way, way worse. So that's basically kind of a setup for the future. But that was it for episode 4. Now, the thing, again, this it looks so much better. There is way more setup in this first episode than all 3 of the other episodes. And one interesting thing is that the guy, Mon Mothma's childhood friend that we saw in episode 3, who'd most likely go off and get killed, he never gets brought up again. It's not explored how she's dealing with the ramification. We had her little party scene at the end of episode 3. It's her trying to forget that she basically just sent her friend off to die. But that has no ramification. It's not brought up. It's never mentioned in these 3 episodes. They just moved on. This is a year later, right? So that's not brought up. The other thing that I thought pretty interesting that we never brought up is that they mention his sister. They mention Andor's sister in the 4th episode, but the thing that's not a plot point. What the fuck happened to Andor's sister? He just kind of gave up on that. It's no longer any of his concern. It makes me more mad at how slow and boring the first 3 episodes were. It wasn't a good way to start. From what I remember, from what I was hearing on YouTube, those first 3 episodes were the worst. Like they were the worst of the bunch. So hopefully it just picks up from here. I'm hoping that's the case. Episode 5, it starts off with Andor leaving to go to Gorman, and he starts using the code phrases, and you hear the code phrases used later for the Luthen's network on how he gets his identities and stuff. So the ISB do the investigation on Cyril's office, and you can tell, I'm pretty sure he knew about it. You can tell that he kind of was aware it was going to happen, but he plays it off like it's an absolute outrage, and it's good. Both Cyril and Andor in this episode specifically can show that they are capable of doing like their job properly, which is great. I was thinking that they were going to be made to seem incompetent like they were in episodes 1. But this one thankfully, it's good.
Because of course, we're bugging our own office.
So we cut back to Coruscant, and Luthen's assistant, whose name I still can't remember, meets with Davo's assistant. Davo is the guy who Mon Mothma was marrying her daughter to, or his son. And his assistant is essentially talking about how they found a counterfeit art piece, and they're going to go through an entire reappraisal of everything in his art gallery whenever his party is over. He's scheduling a party for later. That's going to be in episode 6, is the actual party. What they're worried about and what Luthen's worried about is that they have a listening device installed on one of the art pieces. So there's an entire plot point around we need to get this listening device removed before people know, and before they go through the reappraisal, because someone's going to find it when they appraise it. Next, we go to Cyril getting contacted by the Gorman rebels, and they bring him in to the fold, because they think that he's sympathetic towards the cause. Turns out he's actually not, but they don't know that, and they try to pull him into it because they think he's going to be a pro Gorman Imperial. Once he does that, he brings it back to the ISB agents, and it's more set up for them basically taking over Gorman. Meanwhile, while Andor is gone, Luthen comes to visit Bix, and that's where he tells her about the drug, and he's trying to get her to do a job, but then he decides last minute to not send her on the job. Bix is a whole hot mess right now, so she clearly needs some time to herself, and Luthen doesn't think that she's ready to go out on another mission. Andor meets with one of the Gormans, and this is a scene that I really, really enjoy, because in it, we see Andor actually show that he's competent and he knows what he's actually doing, because she just bursts in on the scene, says his name out loud, and he essentially, he plays along with it, and once she actually sits down, he cuts the shit for a second and go, by the way, you just put your entire operation in jeopardy because you're doing this so wrong.
Your friend might have come himself.
Unless I'm the friend, maybe I'm ISB. Maybe you just put everyone you care about into a cell. I am who you want me to be. But that's just you getting lucky.
And especially after watching Andor fumble around in the first episode where he fucks up, he can't fly the ship, which that's never brought up again, by the way. They never brought up how they sent him on a mission to get a ship that he didn't know how to fly. That's never brought up again. But we saw that in episode 1, and then in episode 1 and 2, he's handcuffed to the floor of a ship. He seems like he's completely fucking incompetent in the first 2. This is his show, by the way, and he was completely sidelined for most of it. This scene right here, where he is meeting with the Resistance leader for the first time, was the first time I got to see Andor actually be an interest, aside from the prison scene in season 1, which obviously that's the only time Andor seemed like an actually interesting character in season 1, was during the prison scene. But this time around, he actually gets to show that he knows how to be a spy and a resistance leader, and he's actually competent at his job, which is great. I love this. This is good. I'm like, good. Andor should be about Andor, I think. You can't just sideline him because we know he dies in Rogue One. We still want to see what happens. But either way, I thought, it was a really, really good scene. And then after that meeting, Andor is going to meet with the leader, Carver Rylus, the head of the Gorman Rebellion. He runs one of the major clothing lines, and that's where they meet. And they talk about the setup, and Andor decides that the Gormans don't know what the hell they're doing. He decides that it's not worth the trouble for Luthen to be involved with them because they don't know what they're doing. They're inexperienced. He doesn't think they have enough drive. He doesn't think that they're worth the effort of the rebellion to recruit. Cuts to Saw Gerrera, who's talking to his engineer about how he's going to have to get rid of the other one, the one that Luthen sent, once he learns everything. And then it's just a scene where it's Saw Gerrera being paranoid freak that he is. Like, he knows too much. We got to get rid of him. I thought it's fun to watch, but it's not very important in the scene. It's Saw Gerrera being typical paranoid Saw. But right when they're about to leave, he pulls a blaster on the engineer, Willman, and they think he's about to kill him, but last minute twist, he kills his own engineer, who turns out that he was already feeding information to the Empire. He was a traitor in the midst. And so they essentially hire the Luthen's drill guy to run the operation, and they all just duck out of there. Next week, we cut back to Andor, who's still unsure if the Gormans can handle a raid. That's where he goes over why he doesn't think that they have what it takes. But the most important scene in this episode, I think, it's the end of episode 5. It is the actual raid that Saw Gerrera was planning, the extraction of the Rhydonium. And during this, Saw is telling a story about how he was forced to mine Rhydonium on Onderon, which, again, it's Saw Gerrera's backstory. Saw's got a pretty rough history, as we all know. He was telling the story about how he would inhale the fumes, and that's the reason why he's so crazy right now. And once the extraction is complete, Saw rushes over and just starts inhaling the Rhydonium because he's like, yes, feel it. We are the craze. We are the Rhydonium of the resistance, or of the rebellion. And he essentially convinces the guy to take off his mask, breathe in the fumes, and go crazy. Because he tells Saw, he's like, you're crazy, and he's like,
yes, I am. Revolution is not for the same.
It's such a good scene. I was really impressed with this, and he essentially gets Luthen's engineer to be 100% on board with Saw's team, and it was a good. That was the end of episode 5, and I thought it was good. It was a good scene. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. Why Saw was telling the guy his story in the middle of his really intense extraction process that could cause the Rhydonium to blow up if he fucks it up seems not like a good idea. Seems like this story thing could have probably waited a little bit, but it was a fun delivery nonetheless. Hey, little one, you bringing me a toy? At least it doesn't squeak this time. Okay. There you go. Episode 6 starts off with Andor and Luthen meeting. Andor tells Luthen that he doesn't believe the Gormans are up for it, and he says it's not worth the effort. What Andor doesn't know is that Luthen had already sent someone else to take care of it because he believes that it's actually worth it. So he sends Vel. You remember Vel? She's the spy that works for him. She has the thing with Cinta, the other character. And she is going there to basically finish this raid on one of the weapon shipments that they're trying to get so they can actually fight. And this weapon shipment was leaked to them by Cyril on purpose so that the ISB can have the rebels successfully attack a transport so that they have a reason to retaliate. All of the inner working layers of this is really, really good, and I love it. It's good. It's good how they all interlock. It shows how the rebellion is competent, but so is the Empire. The Empire is actually not just a bunch of idiots like just shooting and blasting their way to whatever they need. They're actually manipulating and having subterfuge, and they're also smart. Everyone is smart right now, which is good. Everyone is doing the best they can, so there's no incompetence. That's the reason why plot gets driven forward, is people being incompetent, which is like what they did in Ahsoka with Thrawn, where losing was We lost on purpose. Losing was the whole plan. I planned for them to fail. No. This one, you have scenes where you have Partagast and the ISB be like, okay, we're gonna let them taste victory for a second because it's going to give us the opportunity to crack down on them because they won. It's not like, oh, I planned for them to win or I planned for us to lose the entire time. It actually showed them ahead of time going, yes, no, we're gonna let them win, and then it's going to work. So I thought it was great. We cut back to Mon Mothma, who's having the biggest issue is that there are a bunch. She's with her husband, and they're essentially planning to go to a bunch of parties, a bunch of senators. There are 80 new senators in the Senate right now, and they're basically all throwing parties around the same time. And Mon Mothma's just had it. She's totally upset with it, and her husband is wondering, I don't know how we can fake being sincere this much.
It's tough squeezing a whole year's worth of insincerity into 3 nights.
Next, we have the ISB meeting where they're essentially planning to intercept the raid. They're already planning on the Gorman resistance actually rising up. And then we go to the briefing where it's so Cinta and Vel are now there. They're starting to reconnect. We don't really see what happened to Cinta. She says that she was in an accident during one of her operations. Maybe that was the accident where she got rid of Tay. Don't know. We don't know what happened to them because it's never fucking brought up. That whole important thing that was the end of episode 3 that was left kind of ambiguous because we just saw them driving up. No idea what fucking happens because it's never brought up. But that's irritating to me. But anyway. We go to the actual party that they were talking about. The party where Luthen and Clea, his assistant, their assistants, they're going there to try to get rid of the listening device and the art piece. We're at the party, and we get to see Senator Organa. Finally, he's only there for a little bit. He's not mentioned that much. I wish he was in this show more often because he's really, really important in the rebellion. No one really understands how important Organa actually is, especially the normies, because they've only ever seen him a couple times in like episode 3 and in Revenge of the Sith, and he's super important. He's one of the major players in the rebellion. He's recasted by Benjamin Bratt instead of the Jimmy Smits who we're used to seeing. And apparently the reason why Jimmy Smits is not in Andor is because there was a scheduling conflict. So it's fine. You know, I don't really care about the recasting. Benjamin Bratt did a decent job. I could believe it. I could believe him being Organa. And while they're at the party, while everyone is maneuvering around, they go into the art gallery where Clea is trying to remove the listening device. But while they're there, they come across director Krennic. And you have Luthen, Mothma, and Krennic all in one scene, and they all get to interact while this little heist is going on. And it's done very well. While this is happening, the actual raid on Gorman takes place. And during it, the whole setup for the raid was fun. Like, you got to see them plan everything. You got to see them plan for contingencies. You got to tell them, make sure everyone has 2 exit strategies. The way an actual competent operation would be run. And you got to see it all executed in the same way. What had happened was Vel and Cinta were supposed to be the only 2 people to have blasters because they knew that everyone else was inexperienced and they would do something to fuck it up. The raid mostly goes off completely fine, well-timed. Meanwhile, Cyril is off in the distance watching it and reporting everything that's happening. While this happens, one of the Gormans who was at the town hall where Cyril was recruited, he essentially interrupts, and one of the young resistance fighters pulls a blaster on him because he brought one because he's a young, stupid idiot. And while he's wrestling with them, he shoots, and then Cinta dies. Really impactful scene. It was actually probably the first death that I felt was earned and justified on why we should actually feel something about it, because her and Vel were finally starting to get back together. Things were going well for them, but then she dies because of the misfire. And while this happens, they all run away. Cyril reports their shots fired. You see Partagast and Deidre in the operation room saying, bring in send enforcements, make sure they're very, very loud so that they know they're coming, so they know to get away. So he's basically saying, we're throwing this operation. We did this on purpose. Make sure that they know that reinforcements are coming. And then while they're running away, Vel is in the transport with the kid who shot Cinta, and she gives a speech about how, no, that you are going to live with. I don't need to tell you that you fucked up. You know you fucked up.
She was a blooded, fearless warrior whose loss will be mourned in ways that you will never understand.
It was a good scene, well deserved, and I actually felt like when what's his name? When Brazzo died in episode 3, I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care two shits about him. Maybe if I'd watched season 1 again before I watched season 2, maybe I'd have a little more of an attachment to him. But I really didn't give a fuck when he died. When Cinta died, I actually cared because Vel delivered a speech that actually made me feel the loss. And the show's supposed to make you feel. The actors are supposed to make you feel like it's real. I felt like it was real. So that good scene. I liked it a lot. Then the episode ends with the doctor who tortured Bix in season 1. She basically straps him to a chair. She runs him through the city. She kills him. She kills him. And when you first see it, you think, "Oh, is Bix going rogue?" I feel like that was really like a crazy thing because she was having trouble sleeping. So maybe this is the only way she was able to get closure. But as she's leaving, you see Andor with her, and then they both blow up the building, and that's how the episode ends. All in all, these 3 episodes were good. I enjoyed the hell out of them. And I hope the show keeps up this momentum as it keeps going, because if this is the starting point for things actually getting interesting, then with 2 more bouts of episodes to be released, we've got 6 more episodes to come out. I'm hoping this show can end strongly. I hope. I want the show to be good. I want this show to be as good as season 1 was, because if this is the ray of hope in the sea of shit that we're swimming through in Star Wars. By the way, when I'm recording this video, it's the 2nd, so Fortnite just released their Star Wars. They just released their Star Wars stuff, and it's funny how Fortnite knows what we want as fans better than fucking Disney does. So I'm actually excited. That was my motivation to record the video. I'm like, okay, once I'm done with this, I can go play Fortnite, play some Star Wars stuff on Fortnite. Excited for that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. We'll be back for episodes 7, 8, and 9. And we will also be releasing a video on Monday going over any news that may have happened over the weekend. We'll see what happens. We'll see how people respond to this. I need to look at the ratings again. We're probably going to look into that for Andor, see how the ratings are doing. But let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you all for the next video.